The second and last corner case I want to tell you about is a feature that turns out to be quite useful in practice. I will simplify the diagram for this. I will switch to main and forget about the ideas branch for a while. Actually, let's forget about everything for the moment except for the very latest commit. So far, I always told you that head is a reference to a branch, which in turn is a reference to a commit. When you switch to a branch, or you check out a branch, you can use either switch or checkout, that means that you're changing head. However, you can also do something different. You can directly check out a commit instead of a branch. In this case, you have to use checkout. You cannot do a switch. Switch is only for branches. So I will check out this commit. I will just use the commit's hash. There. Now, if you look inside head, it's not pointing to a branch, it's pointing directly to a commit. And indeed, there is no current branch at all. We are not on a branch. This is a situation that is called detached head. How is this useful in practice? Well, let me work a little bit more so I can show it to you. Let's make some experiments in the apple pie recipe. Something that I'm not sure I want to keep around. There, it's good with 9 apples, it must be even better with 20, right? And I will commit this. What happens when I commit? Well, in this case, Git cannot move the current branch as usual. There is no current branch. So it will track the latest commit by moving head directly. Head is working like a branch here. Okay, let me hack in a few more changes. Let's make the pie sugar-free. It's healthy. Another commit. Another head movement. Okay, now let's say that we had enough of these. I tried baking an apple pie with all these extra apples and no sugar. It tastes like cooked apples. I don't like that, so we'll abandon the experiment. I will switch to main again. Okay, now head is back where it belongs, on the main branch, so are our files. Everything is business as usual. We roll back the latest 2 commits. But there is a nagging question here. What happened to these commits? Well, they are still in the object database somewhere, together with all their trees and blobs, but unless I took note of their hashes, these commits and their connected objects are now unreachable. They cannot be reached by starting from a branch or a tag and walking the objects in the database. They are effectively isolated. I can only reach them directly by their hashes, and I'll probably forget those hashes soon. If you have any experience with object-oriented languages, then you know what happens to an object when it can't be reached by any reference. It gets garbage collected. At some point, the system decides that the object is wasting precious memory and it deletes the object and recovers the memory. And this is exactly what happens in Git as well. Every now and then, in the course of other operations, Git decides that it's worth running a garbage collection. The garbage collector will look for objects in the database that cannot be ultimately reached from a branch, or head, or tag, and it will remove them to save disk space. Remember, each object is just a file in the object database, so removing them is as easy as deleting those files. So, these commits I created will likely stay in the database for some time and then disappear. If I want to save them, I must act now. How do I do that? One thing that I can do is move back to the lost commits. I can still do it because I have their hashes here, and the garbage collector didn't run yet, so these objects are still in the database. There, that was a last-minute save. And now that I have the commit, I can put a branch on it. Here, let's create a branch called no good. Now I can switch to main again, and this time around the commits are safe. There is a branch now that accesses the entry point to this section of the object graph, so these objects will never be garbage collected, and I can easily get back to them by checking out no good if I wish. This is a common way to use a detached head. When you want to try out something, go down a detour and in general experiment with your code, you don't have to leave behind the convenience of using Git. You can detach head, do your experiment, still commit the experiment as much as you wish so that you won't lose data, and then you decide whether to keep the experiment or do away with it. Just remember to put a branch on the stuff that you care about before you leave it behind.